What's up, friends? This is On the Horn. I'm Zach Joachim. We got the assembled media here. In that head? That was rude. Thanks, Ben. St. Louis beat VCU 71-62 tonight at the Siegel Center. Rams to 11-5, 2-1 A10. Billikens to 14-1, 2-0 A10, I believe. The over-under for this game was 169.5. That's the highest in Siegel Center history. Everyone thought it was going to be an offensive explosion between two teams who, the metrics told you, had been playing phenomenal basketball on the offensive end and been inconsistent defensively. And I think both teams maybe heard that narrative and took some pride in their showing on the defensive end, because I think this was maybe the best defensive showing of the year. One of the best defensive showings of the year for both VCU and St. Louis, and we got a choppy, frenetic, kind of sloppy game. 12 turnovers a piece for both teams. This was not the offensive explosion that everyone expected it to be. And St. Louis led for 38-38. VCU for just 13 seconds. And so that's where we'll kind of start, breaking down the narrative here. Because VCU chipped away throughout the second half, clawed back to make it 62-61 Rams. They took their first lead, but I think it was 2:25 to play. I'm putting my phone down a second because we're going to pull up the play-by-play here. So I can take y'all down how this game ended. That was an Ahmad Noel finger roll on a really great drive through the lane with, 2:25 to play? 2:25 to play. So 62-61 VCU with 2:25 to play. After an Ahmad Noel drive, step through in the lane, finger roll, great finish. I thought his spark off the bench was strong again tonight. He's earned his way into this rotation. We asked Phil about that after the game. He played 16-47, 5 points, 4 rebounds. Also hit a big three during that sequence here. So Rams take their first lead. And then Amari McCautry, who only ended up with 6 points and made 2 of 3 3-point attempts, who is not an outside shooter by the book. And we heard Phil say it in the first half when McCautry hit a wide open three because VCU sagged off of him a ton. Phil said, that's fine. We'll take that. And so obviously coming into the game, they had said, we're going to sag off McCautry. We're going to let him shoot from outside. We're not going to let him get downhill and attack the cup. And hats off to him because he hit the wide open three that VCU was daring him to hit. And hats off to St. Louis, because every moment that the pressure was on in this game, when VCU got some momentum, when the crowd got into it, this place was sold out. There were moments when it was phenomenal, especially when Ahmad Noel gives them the lead there. That came shortly after. Michael Bell, shooting it from outside, continues to shoot it outside with such increased confidence. Step back tray off the dribble, left wing with 4:20 to play. That made it 61-58 Billikens, and this place was on fire. And then Djokovic hit 2 free throws, and then Noel gave VCU the lead, and then St. Louis closed on a 10-0 run. And it's ball game, and it took the air out of this place. And every time, there were a few other moments like that. I'll try and find them here in the play-by-play, because every time that VCU was really able to grab momentum in this game and get the crowd into it, St. Louis answered. There was a Terrence Hill 3 at the top of the key with 6:38 to play for 57-50. That was another one of those moments. And then immediately afterward, a Paul Otieno slam on the other end for 59-50 to kind of take the air out of VCU's momentum. I thought Otieno was really good. 8 points, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks for him. He was the really strong presence down low for them. And then Kellen Thames, a huge shout out to Kellen Thames because he was outstanding tonight. Career high 18 points, 10 rebounds. Sluice spread the scoring around. And Thames was the guy that Phil Martelli said heading into the game they kind of identified. He could be an issue for them because he plays with what Martelli said is a reckless abandon that has hurt them at times this year. It was huge, and one of the differences in the game for them tonight, because his finishing around the rim was outstanding, and VCU's was not, right? And Bam, JJ and Tracy and Terrence Hill were the first ones to say that in the post-game presser. They were like, look, we got to finish better around the rim, because VCU 18 of 63 from the field, that's 28.6%. St. Louis and then VCU 6-24 from 3, that's 25%. St. Louis didn't light it up offensively. They're 27 of 63 from the field, 42.9%, and 6 of 20 from 3 for 30%. But they just finished the easy buckets down low that VCU wasn't able to. Here's another moment, where it felt like VCU had a chance to grab control. Terrence Hill, spin, hesitation dribble, that was wonderful. Took it coast to coast and finished off glass for 49-41 with 10:20 to play. And then immediately after, Thames with a pretty move, a spin in the lane, a finish over Djokovic for 51-41. Just another one of those moments when this crowd was on its feet and it felt like VCU had momentum, and St. Louis hit the bucket that they needed to hit, right, to quell the momentum, to quiet this place down and to regain control. Here's another one of those moments. Barry Evans charged through the lane, two-handed jam. That's early on in the second half with 15:06 to play. That made it 38-32. And then a Michael Bell offensive rebound gave VCU another shot at it. St. Louis responds to that with, what is it? Wow. Yeah, a 38-32. What's the math there? A 7-0 run. Otieno slam. Another Otieno finish at the rim on a lob inside when he had a mismatch with Brandon Jennings guarding him. And then Thames gets downhill. Finished through Evans off glass, hit the and one, and converted the free throw for 45-32 with 13-19 left. That was their largest lead at the time. And so just every time that VCU was really able to get traction, St. Louis answered with a run, right? And really, I mean, the difference in the game are the two runs to close the half, to close both halves, right? Because going back to the first half here, Terrence Hill hits 3 free throws for 19 up right after the under 4 stoppage in the first half. You know, neither team really gained a whole lot of separation. Obviously, VCU none, but St. Louis really couldn't, gain decisive control of this game, even though they led from the outset. I think they led 10-4. VCU responded to tie it at 10. And then just a pretty, mutually sloppy first half. And VCU ties it up at 19 with those Terrence Hill free throws after he got fouled on a 3-point attempt on the left wing when there was a defender in the landing zone for him. And then Deion Brown bucket down low on a pretty action and a back cut. Brown hit a free throw. There was a goaltend called on Barry Evans for a Thames bucket. And then they closed the half on, what's the math there? It was 30-22 SLU, so that's an 11-3 run to close the first half, and then they closed the second half on a 10-0 run, right? So aside from those couple of runs, VCU won the game outside of the last few minutes of the first half and the last few minutes of the second half. What's the other stuff that stands out on the stat sheet to us? Was Zach Joachim, 11 points, 12 rebounds. So all right production for him at the end of the day, but I thought St. Louis did a great job of denying him in the post early on. I thought VCU tried on a few occasions to get those entry passes to play through Djokovic, and they just weren't able to. And on the flip side, VCU defended Robbie Avila wonderfully tonight. He ended up with 8 points, 2 of 6 from the field, 2 assists, all of the back cut action that they love to do when Avila has the ball on the elbow or on the shoulder. VCU limited really well. Avila and Djokovic didn't score in the first half, which was wild. If you'd say before this game that we'd have 52 combined points at the half and Djokovic and Avila wouldn't have scored, everyone would have told you were crazy, right? So this game really did not play out how everyone expected it to, in terms of the leading scorers, in terms of the collective offensive firepower. But the story is really Thames getting going like he did in St. Louis, getting the buckets that they needed when all the pressure was on, when this crowd got into the game. And VCU had the momentum. They were able to stem the tide every time. Michael Bell, 10 points, 7 rebounds. I loved his contributions. He's 3 of 10 from the field, and he certainly had some of those finishes at the rim, that he missed that he would like back and this team would like back, but I really liked his contributions. He's 3 over on the plus-minus. Noel is 3 over on the plus-minus as well. Those are the only 2 VCU players who have a positive plus-minus tonight. So I really liked both of their contributions off the bench. And again, Terrence Hill continues to be your leading scorer for this team. I'm sorry, they're doing up the wires around me. I'll get out your way. SLU 40-24 edge in the paint, right? They were just able to finish those baskets around the rim that VCU wasn't. Aside from that, SLU 14 assists, VCU 7. And so, neither team really had its best crisp ball movement on the offensive side, but St. Louis had more of it than VCU did tonight. 12 turnovers apiece. They're even in the rebounding margin, 42 up. The difference schematically is really St. Louis's ability to create those easy buckets underneath and finish them when VCU wasn't, and the lane was crowded every time VCU was able to get to the rim. And the finishes just didn't fall for them through contact. So again, St. Louis 71, VCU 62. Rams to 11-5, 2-1 in A10 play. Really quick turnaround here to George Mason on Saturday with a huge game and what I'm sure is going to be a rockin' Eagle Bank arena. But Phil Martelli said it in the postgame presser. I know people have been saying it on the socials this week. Everyone pack it up and get up 95 and try and fill Eagle Bank with as much black and gold as VCU can, because they could use it in what's going to be a tough game against a good George Mason team on Saturday. I'm Zach Joachim. This is On the Horn. Rams to 11-5, 2-1 in A10 play. Billikens were the better team tonight, but VCU certainly some building blocks, I think, on the defensive end. Again, one of their better performances defensively, and some regression to the mean on the offensive side with how well they've been playing lately. I'm Zach Joachim, and this is On the Horn. Thank you so much for watching and joining, guys. I'll see you Saturday in Fairfax.